Three, two, one, go. Welcome to the Lightforge. This is Abwicta.
This is Merps. Hope you guys are having a good week. Hope you guys are staying safe amid all of the rising COVID rates. All right, stay indoors, keep on playing games, keep on being the degenerate antisocial gamer I know you guys can be. All right.
It was nice to just stay home during this whole many month situation that doesn't look like it's really ending anytime soon.
I
Just
know.
showing the rest of the world what our life is like. People
Yeah,
have all these stories, and we're like, it's pretty much the same.
that's pretty much the same, and I think we'll be here for a while. Anyways,
You know what
we've
that
had
means, right? It means we've hit the next level of human evolution before the rest of humanity, and now they are forced to catch up to the way we live our lives, which will be the way we all live our lives.
Well, don't lump the rest of gamers with you. You're still a very different breed, okay, with
Uh,
your habits and your ideals. So you're not really part of the we here. Let's get that out of the way. Anyways, it's been quite a week, quite a very drama-filled week. If you are tuned into kind of just all the gaming communities. But first, I also want to touch upon some very sad news that hit the Hearthstone community. Reckful passed away earlier this week. And I know that he inspired a lot of people, and he also was one of the first people to really popularize and play Hearthstone as well. Our hearts go out to his family and his friends. And just wanted to say that it is truly a big loss for the Hearthstone and the gaming community. And it was very touching to see all of the tributes that were given to him in World of Warcraft. It was very touching because it really displayed the effect that Reckful had on the gaming community at large. So that was very, very sad. And in addition to that, oh man, just really tough week overall with everything that's going on Twitter. I won't touch upon that, but I'll just say to everyone, Twitter and also just the news can be pretty overwhelming right now. I hope everyone is taking care of themselves, and if you're feeling overwhelmed as well, make sure you take care of yourself first. Take time to ground yourself, take care of yourself, do whatever you got to do, and then come back strong.
So, like for example, I watched for this weekend, the Fourth of July weekend. I watched the entirety, all three seasons of Crashing. I got an HBO Max trial, something I've been meaning to watch for a while, because I like my stand up comedians, and I knew like everybody like that was on that show. So it was a great nostalgia thing for me, even though I'd never seen the show before. And that was really good. I felt like that was like a mental cleanse of all the crap that's going on.
Yeah, and I think that's very important because although it's important for us to stay tuned in, to stay informed, we also need to be okay with letting go sometimes, recharging, and then coming back. So I hope everyone is doing that because with everything going on outside the game community and everything that's going on inside the gaming community, it is a lot to take in. And even I have felt overwhelmed at times. So it is very important that I hope everyone takes stock of how they're feeling and takes care of themselves. Okay, let's talk about Hearthstone. So, first, let's talk about Arena, in which there are so many things that are not happening because nothing ever happens with Arena. Thus far, we have no official updates from Blizzard. I do wanted to talk about something that Boozer posted earlier on this week. So, approximately on, I think it was Tuesday, Boozer posted on Arena HS and also the main Hearthstone subreddit as well. The post is still on there. You can search for it. It's called Lack of Arena Leaderboards and Arena Rotation, where Boozer, once again, for those who don't know, two time number one NA, three-time runner up, just an arena superstar, and truly one of not just one of the best players, but a great advocate for arena as well. Wrote a guide, is always very willing to help people. Um, Boozer laid out in his post that essentially, number one, there are no leaderboards when there should be, and there has been no consistency with leaderboards. The rotations have not happened, and also micro adjusts really have not happened. And he would like more communication and consistency with all of these. And his criticisms, once again, they don't go to specific cards, they don't go to any of that. It just goes to Blizzard's communication or lack of communication, lack of consistency with this game mode. I thought it was incredibly well written, and I think for the arena community, it was very much needed that someone who is so good at the game and is such a good ambassador for the game speaks out like this. It got universal praise on the Hearthstone subreddit, it basically reached the top of the subreddit as well. Thus far, no Blizzard employees have responded.
No response. Just
Uh,
radio silence from Blizzard.
Not that surprising because Boozer has been trying to reach out to them multiple times throughout Twitter and throughout Reddit. And here is the thing with Blizzard. Because we talked about this last week and we've said it before, Blizzard likes to parrot this idea that if you play the game and if you just communicate nicely, things will happen. They told the same thing to us, but as we can see from Boozer, Boozer is playing the game in the best way possible. He is nothing but professional, and I would say giving Blizzard a lot more than they deserve here in terms of professionalism. And he's gotten nothing back, just not even a response. And I think Boozer agrees with this because he's posted something like this as well. At this point, the arena community would just even appreciate something like, hey, this is not a priority for us. We appreciate the fact that you guys are so into arena. We're just very busy with other stuff, and it's on the back burner for now, but we'll take a look at it later. Even something like that, I think would be appreciated as just an admission that, hey, it's not something we're focusing on right now, maybe later on. But thus far, we still haven't gotten that. What we have gotten are just constant messages, and this is from months ago, but constant messages that, hey, no, we still love arena. This is something that we obviously still care about. And let's just say that's disingenuous at best, because obviously they haven't been. And now it's radio silence. And it's pretty embarrassing at this point from Blizzard. I'm sorry. And I hope we're going to see something, but I really don't think we are. And it's a shame because I think any game company would want someone like Boozer to be representing their game, to be playing at this high level, to be this caring about the game. And it's just being wasted here.
Yeah, but I mean, this is not surprising.
No,
It's not like a new development, except that people are getting more, and as time goes on and less things get done in the arena, more and more people are either going to just leave, just recognize that you're in an out group and find somewhere else where you're in an in group or with a better culture than Blizzard, or you're going to just get more and more frustrated. And I don't know. We knew this was happening almost a year ago, like from the time when they said, "Hey, we are going to get rid of buckets with no replacements, and we'll see." It was all kind of downhill from there. I think that was pretty obvious, and then it was super, like, they basically said it without saying it when the like before Ashes of Outlands, like a month before, when they revealed the roadmap for 2020, and Arena was not in it. Like,
it wasn't mentioned.
And not only that, but there was a new game mode that's coming anytime now. Should be in the next couple weeks. We get some information on it. It's what's happening. All right, maybe I think there's a chance for Arena in the later half of 2021, but that's the earliest you're going to see Blizzard do any serious action on Arena, and they may start communicating on Arena more. Like, that's why Boozer Like if you look at the post, was not just critiquing Blizzard for not doing stuff, but mostly for not even saying anything. Because
Yeah.
it's one thing to just kind of have a different direction. It is a totally different thing to just ghost your community. Lie to them a lot and then ghost them, right? Like we keep saying we're in an abusive relationship with Blizzard as arena players. We've been saying this since we started this whole thing, like 6 years ago now, 7 years ago. Um, 7 years ago now, actually. Jeez. No, 6 years ago. Anyway, my point being, it's because it follows the same patterns as an abusive relationship.
Yep. So, anyways, thank you to Boozer for writing this very well, thought out piece. I hope we hear something soon for everyone's sake, but I am not anticipating anything. And because we should expect the announcement of the new expansion soon-ish, maybe they'll attach something about Arena there. A one-liner that us Arena players are so looking forward to, but we shall see with that. And that's sort of all the Arena news there is this week. I know that it is not what everyone wants to hear. The only Arena update is basically your number one player complaining about the game, but that is the state of the Arena now. I personally played 2 runs on stream this week, and it's kind of just the same old. The game hasn't really changed, and that's because micro adjusts haven't happened. So the game that we had many weeks ago is the same game that we have right now, and it's fine. It is what it is. And this is why I'm not going to really complain too much about the game state. It is what it is. It's not the worst meta we've ever had, but it is stale. We have been playing this for a while, and changes would have been good.
And changes should be easy. Hit the freaking micro adjust button. Demon Hunters are at 38% win rate.
Right. This is the whole point of getting rid of buckets, because it makes micro adjust easy. Blizzard said it themselves. So, okay. Anyways, that is it for Arena. Let's talk about the game mode that they obviously care much more about, and is their baby, which is Battlegrounds. So Battlegrounds, for this week, we got huge news, but huge news unofficially because someone data mined the fact that 8-player lobbies are coming to Battlegrounds. What this means is the ability to queue in with 7 of your friends in order to have sort of your own little tournament, your own little lobby. That's in the code already. So it's coming soon-ish, soon TM, whatever that means. Also, what they data mined is that in the regular mode, supposedly, you can now play up to a party of up to 4 players. So queuing up into the regular ladder, which I hope is not true, which I hope they take away, or that is just wrong, because that can have all sorts of bad implications on MMR. But let's focus on the 8-player lobbies for a second. And this is something that I have wanted, and every content creator, I'll say content creators because especially them, but I think everyone has wanted this for a long time. And this is a game changer. We have not seen anything like this in the history of Hearthstone, because if you look at Hearthstone and the 7-year history of it, what Hearthstone has been is a pretty solitary game. Whenever there are any sort of rivalries or tournaments, they've been done either in Blizzard sanctioned settings where you can play tournaments, or you're really just playing against the field, against the ladder. So, for example, back in the heydays, you never really had if you were sort of Team Crip and other people were Team Trump, right? Whether it was constructed or arena, because these players played both back in the day, you had to wait until actual tournaments, or you had to have challenge like a Maz's 110 challenge in order to pit these players against each other in order to sort of have that argument of, oh, who is better, right? But at the end of the day, you could only have this sort of Jordan versus LeBron argument in which you can argue sort of, oh, this player is better because of that, but you could never really face them head to head against each other. And Hearthstone historically has just been a very solitary game. You don't really have these rivalries because everyone's just queuing up into the ladder. In Arena, everyone is just beating up on noobs, right? Adokta, you say Arena is just good players beating up on a lot of bad players. And then it's who can beat up on bad players. Yeah, exactly. Who is the best at beating up bad players? Really, that is the title. When we talk about, like Dreads is 9.4, right? Or Boozer being number 1. What does it really mean? It means they were really good at beating up noobs. Same when I was number 1. I was just really good at beating up noobs. You obviously, so that is what Hearthstone has been. It has been a game in which Blizzard pushes this idea that it's a very friendly game and it's a very communal game with fireside gatherings and all of that. But it really has been an extraordinarily solitary game. And Blizzard has not given you really any ways to make it your own, which is so unlike all of its other games, right? StarCraft, not only can you queue up with friends whenever you want in huge lobbies, you can make custom games, right? So you can make the games your own. I remember you and me, even back during regular StarCraft 1, we were playing like StarCraft Paintball, StarCraft RPG, right?
Yeah. Those are fun.
They
were terrible looking back at it, but at the time they were fun.
Oh my gosh, StarCraft Paintball was so fun. But what that did was it gave tools to players and to content creators such that they can expand upon the game, right? They did the same thing to Warcraft 3. And hey, if you're a fan of Dota or like if you're a fan of League of Legends or Dota, well, that was because of the community making Dota. They made it, and that spawned like the entire industry, right? Same thing at Overwatch as well. You have all these custom settings, and people can make tournaments in Overwatch just by using the client that Blizzard gives you. We haven't had that in Hearthstone at all, like at all. Remember, we tried to make arena tournaments, right? At the very beginning, we tried to do it with like Ratsma, and that was just the worst thing. This is like back in 2014, I think, and that was just the absolute worst.
For the record, I handed Ratsma and Collins' ass to them when we did our 3-man tournament.
That was terrible. That was actually terrible, and I never want to bring this fact up ever again. I don't know if it's on YouTube. Please don't search for it if it is. However, this has mainly been the problem. So as content creators, why is it so important for us to get 8-player lobbies? It's because for the longevity of the game, you need these storylines, you need these competitions. You saw how hyped everyone got from the Battlegrounds brawl and the fact that Slissa slotted in at the last second and she crushed it. Everyone was just so hyped up about it, and it created these storylines. And all we can do right now are dual queue challenges. For example, Slissa has these challenges with Show every now and again. She actually just had one today with Show, but people really enjoy those. Other than that, though, once again, it's just you versus the field. So people will look at Victor and see, oh, he's number 6 in NA right now, or he's number 3 in NA right now, and compare that to someone else who is like number 10 on NA. But there is actually no head-to-head competition here. And we have only had specific instances, 2 instances of head-to-head competition. And that sort of, it takes the fire out of the competition because you don't actually get to develop these rivalries. And now that we have these lobbies, anything goes now. I mean, I'm thinking of right now, and I've been talking with like Slissa as well. And, we want to play together. We want to get 8-player lobbies with all the smack talk. And also, this is a way to really refine play styles as well. This is like a way to for you to get your own practice groups, and this is a way for you to uh, really dig into the theory of the game because you can have 8 players, and if BGs becomes bigger, if it becomes sort of an esports, as if you want to call it that, now is where you can super understand the game because you have
Hmm.
actual the actual entire game
You can
in
train.
your hands. You can train exactly. So this is a tool that is good for competitiveness because like Overwatch was not uh, the competitive Overwatch that until they had gave um uh what was it like the ability to rewatch all of your game from every single angle, right? That's when Overwatch jumped to this. It's like, okay, this is now the cerebral esport that we want it to be, where you can load up your games, watch it from every single possible angle. So now you can see not only what you are doing and what you're doing wrong, you can see what enemies are doing, and you can see what they see. So you can see from their point, oh, I'm peeking too much as Widow. This is bad. And the same thing for BGs as well. So this is just super exciting in terms of entertainment, also for a competitive level. And I think that everyone is hyped for it. But if you remember what Frodan said about uh, the update catapulting Hearthstone like 10 years and
Hmm.
beyond, whatever, everyone made fun of him for that. This could potentially be it. In terms of extending the longevity of Hearthstone, this is exactly what they need to not only retain interest, but get other people interested. And I can't be more excited about this. I haven't played BGs in almost 2 weeks now. I've been watching a lot of it. I haven't really played it because I've been a little bit tired. As soon as this comes out, I'm back 110% because I want to get on this train. Whatever happens, I can't even imagine it, but I want to get back on this train.
Yeah, by the way, you can tell how bad the BG meta is right now. The Mervs has willingly played Arena on stream instead of BGs.
Oh my
Like
God, I
that's
know.
how bad BGs are. I went back to Arena on Friday too. I didn't even mean to. I just got so fed up with BGs that I finished off the night with an Arena run. But yeah, it's um, I don't know. Hopefully, what I'm more excited about is the update that will make BGs better, like just the core game. I think everything Merv said is totally true and great for the competitive scene and great for viewers who view the competitive scene. For me right now, I just kind of want a good meta back. Like that's first and foremost. But you're in a different like zone, right? Like this is not constructed. If you don't have these tools in, it's not like in so many ways, Hearthstone's been around for so long. I guess Battlegrounds hasn't, but Hearthstone has been around for so long, and it has so little of the things that like games now launch with. Like if you want to make
Yep.
a card game, you launch with all this crap, and Hearthstone still doesn't have it. So this is like on one hand, yes, it's a huge change, it has huge impact. On the other hand, it's something that Hearthstone should have had always. And for BGs, it's good that they're doing this because BGs are still in beta, right? So when
Yeah.
BGs launch out of beta, it will be launching with this kind of stuff. And I mean, I know you're laughing. You're like, oh, be it beta, right? What is beta? Well, beta is like there's no league, right? There's no like, there's so many things about Battlegrounds that still feels like it's in beta, and maybe they're not going as fast as I thought they would go when it comes to doing all this. But I think they were also like Blizzard also had to have been like very pleasantly surprised, but still surprised at the response BG's got. If it definitely like we will be the first to admit we thought it was going to suck. We thought it was going to be like a brawl for a month and then everyone would get bored of it, or at least the vast majority of people would get bored of it. We did not think, and I think very few people thought that BGs were going to be like overtake constructed in popularity. So now Blizzard's kind of catching up before and making everything tight before they can get on with the big launch.
It is pretty crazy because with the news this week, and I'm not sure if it was because of the news or if it's just because, for example, GMs are over, but a lot of constructive players are grinding BGs right now. and not just sort of like casually playing BGs. I think there was a point on like Thursday and Friday where if you look at the Hearthstone category, basically 9 out of 10 people were just playing BGs. No one was playing constructed, and definitely not arena. Okay, no one's playing arena. So I think part of it is just people being interested in the news about the lobbies, but I think part of it is also just a feeling that hey, this could be the next big thing, right?
Yeah.
We know what's going on with constructed.
Mm-hmm.
Constructed is as big as it's going to get. We're not
Yeah.
going to get any huge growth. But with BGs, when this happens, it could just be what Hearthstone is in
Mm-hmm.
the next few years.
Yep. Like,
Yeah.
you can, I think, easily imagine a scenario in which the people who actually cared about card games and development and pushing the envelope and things like that leaving Hearthstone for more complicated games. You know, whether it's a newer game that takes Hearthstone's thunder or it's just Magic. Now that MTGA is a thing and has been a thing for a while now, and Magic was always more complicated and more strategic, and they fixed a lot of the things that were, you know, really kind of unfun about the game for a very long time. Like you talk about Hearthstone not changing. Oh my god, MTG not changing. We judge Hearthstone a lot with other Blizzard products, but I think Hearthstone itself judges Hearthstone against MTG. Like it's a cross between MTG and an actual video game, and so they kind of have different standards for themselves, and the community kind of gives them a pass on that too. But just going forward, right? Like it wouldn't surprise me if Hearthstone, like the core game of Hearthstone, kind of loses on the competitive side, loses on the esports side, but that Battlegrounds kind of takes its place for Hearthstone's second act.
Yeah, because what the game has kind of turned into is a very, very kind of discover and RNG focus created by a fair, and people have been complaining about that on the constructed side as well. And one thing that people point to is the fact that whenever Box of Yogg Saron is so prevalent in tournaments, that's kind of a problem where yes, on average it's very good, but when Box of Yogg Saron is turning into a weapon that people are depending on, like we're not really sure if that's a good thing for the constructed scene.
Yep.
So that's where we're at, and I think that in terms of Battlegrounds, more and more people are seeing the complexities and seeing the potential of Battlegrounds that was kind of hard to see from the very beginning. And so with this, I mean, look, the simplest thing is with 8-player lobbies, we can now have weekly tournaments, right? Weekly tournaments, you can have invitations, you can have standings. You can be as creative as you want now. And that is so huge in terms of creating storylines, but also just refining play as well and introducing people to potential up and comers, establishing old, like, you know, the players that we know as just, you know, having bragging rights. It's like, oh, if Collins and Victor were to be in the same lobby 10 times in a row, who would win, right? Now, you know, if they want to do that, there would no longer be some sort of question. It would just be, oh, okay, now we can find out. Not that it means one player is definitively better than the other, but this is what we like. This is what we enjoy about sports, right? The fact that one player can have bragging rights over the other. And I'm so looking forward to it. It's something in which I'm looking forward to watching, but I want to be involved in it as well. Like if there are these lobby games, I want to play BGs to get better, and then I want to. And also everyone's most pressing question of between the boomers, all right, Dreads and Advocta. If we put them in the same lobby over and over again, what would happen? All right. Well, I mean, you guys can do that right now.
You can do that right now, but it's not an 8-player lobby.
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta put in 6 plants, you know, like 6 actually like good players, and then see how we fare amongst them.
Yeah, basically, which one of you is gonna be able to claim the title of seventh place? It's very important. Which one of you is gonna survive long enough to get seventh place?
Obviously, I'm going to destroy Dreads at getting 7th place. I'm
You
so
are
good at getting 7th place.
you are very good at getting seventh place. I will give you that. You are the seventh place king. Okay, no one is better at getting seventh than you.
It's this meta. I used to be the 5th place king, and now in this meta, it's just it keeps dropping. I can't.
So good.
All right, that's Battlegrounds talk. We're waiting for news on the next expansion, really. And just so you know, we have like a long form discussion. If you're like someone who's interested in what we do with the arena algorithm, we have a long form discussion on the arena algorithm and like what's happening, and like how we do things, and just some like fun stories from the back. That's gonna happen either next Lightforge or the Lightforge after that, depending on when news hits. Like we'll talk about the news if the news hits, but if the news doesn't hit, we're gonna put that in there somewhere with the technical director of the Lightforge tier list, who is until now anonymous. So we'll reveal that on the episode. So that's pretty exciting. And it is arena content, sort of. Gotta find ways to keep arena content in there when nothing is happening to the arena. Like, I've never found it more difficult to do arena content than now in the entire history. We've done this as a podcast for 6 years now. Yeah, it's getting to be harder. Like, I'm glad Battlegrounds came around, because otherwise I don't know how we keep filling an hour with pure arena content when Blizzard just like stops doing stuff a month in, and the arena meta is like a lot, because just so much of what we normally talk about arena is so like nuanced, you know? And right now, I can't in good faith tell you nuance matters. So,
really.
So what are we teaching you? You know, what are we describing to you? Yeah. Anyway, thank you to our Patreons for supporting us. We'll give the Patreons a shout out next week by name. Question from the GOAT. I'm going to ask myself, because I want to go on a rant, and this isn't a big, and please don't take this as a big like social issue or something like that, but this has just been, so if you don't know, Disney Plus released Hamilton for 4th of July weekend. It's the whole entire like Broadway production, and I had never even listened to Hamilton before. I know a lot of people listen to the soundtrack. Very few people are able to see it actually on Broadway.
I only listen to the songs.
Yeah, so watching it is a big difference than listening to the songs. They are very good. A lot of good dancing, a lot of like actual theatric. You can see where the people are, and their expressions are great. Especially, like, it always feels weird for me to say this, but really my favorite performer in all of Hamilton is like the one white guy in Hamilton, because he's just so good. In my defense, the guy was nominated for a Tony. He's like actually like just like insanely good. His last name's like Joff or something. I don't know, I'm not a big theater person. But he plays King George, if you're wondering who he is, and you are actually colorblind and didn't realize there was only one. Or you just listen to the tape, but you don't know who's actually white. But there's I think 2 white guys. One has a very tiny part, and the other one is King George. But he is amazing. This guy just like, he's given the hardest role because he has no support. There's like no backup. There's no scenery. It's just him in a spotlight, and like he just has to carry it all, and he does such a good job. But yeah, okay. So I'm gonna go on my Hamilton rant now, because after watching it, I realized 2 things. One is that I feel like for a lot of people, like people who are not history like buffs, and like people who are just interested in this stuff, like me and Merps are, this may actually be like most of what you know about like Hamilton and Burr and these people, because they're not like super important figures in American history. Like they're like C tier figures, you know? Like, yeah, he's on the $10 bill, but like he was about to not be on the $10 bill. They were gonna take him off. And then this play came around, and everyone's like, no, we love Hamilton. Which brings me to the second point, which is that they totally whitewashed Hamilton. Like, it feels like it's just like I'm not even talking about like little. I'm not going to come here and nitpick on the historical inaccuracies, but they like Lin-Manuel, the like writer director and the guy that plays Hamilton, is just like, he just took Hamilton and made a totally different character and called him Alexander Hamilton, and then pieced together like enough of the historical facts together to make the story sort of work. And he doesn't lie. Like, it's really sneaky what he does. He just de-emphasizes everything that is actually core about Hamilton's beliefs and what his like importance is in history, and then he emphasizes all the totally irrelevant stuff that are technically true about Hamilton. It's like this weird, like just watching it, I keep being like, well, I guess he mentioned that thing, but like glossed over, like one liner, right? Throwaway lines. And then he focuses an entire song on something totally irrelevant. So if you, it's just a weird thing to focus on, especially like ironic in the context of like this is supposed to be a production of all like non-white people like claiming a piece of American like history, right? Basically, like that is really the story of rich white men. And they picked the guy to do it with, which is Alexander Hamilton. By the way, very few people disagree on this. Very few historians disagree on this. Alexander Hamilton is the most aristocratic founding father. He is the most king-like, the most in favor of moneyed interest. He was very anti-immigrant. He made a bank in New York, and Aaron Burr actually had to make another bank in New York because Alexander Hamilton's bank wouldn't give immigrants any like loans. And there were a lot of immigrants because it was freaking New York. Yeah, so like, yeah, Alexander Hamilton was like an immigrant, son of a whore, whatever the stuff they say, all true. But then he marries rich, works exclusively for moneyed interests, and tries to kick out the immigrants. He passes the Alien and Sedition Act, which is later used in World War II to intern the Japanese, by the way. So this is what Alexander's for. The Electoral College. He trusted the people so little, he created the Electoral College. Like Alexander Hamilton, not like a bunch of people who thought like him, like actually him. This is just like his place in history is to try to make and like try to centralize as much power as possible and try to like create into the federal government as much centralized power and as close to like the good version of an autocratic system, right, as you can get while nominally being a democracy. His friends were all rich. They made some mention of it. They had throwaway lines like, you know, he married into money, you know, his father-in-law was rich. They mentioned that all of his policies favor the rich in like a rap battle with Jefferson, who was more of the man of the people. But in this movie, Jefferson was like, oh, he you know, owns slaves and he like flounces around. In reality, Jefferson was like a huge nerd and like not at all a characterization of him that fits that role. Anyway, my point is, Alexander Hamilton has, I don't know, maybe like 75% of his policies aligned with someone like Donald Trump. Everything from the high tariffs to the disproportionately benefiting the rich and then trickle down to the like just a lot of things, right? It's not, you know, it's not bad, especially for the time, but it is what it is. And this whole entire thing, like people just watch that. You think like Hamilton was like a borderline like abolitionist or something. Like, no, he like bought and sold slaves. He never owned them, but he bought and sold slaves. It's just, it's such whitewashing of him. And the worst part is Aaron Burr wasn't the exact opposite of Hamilton, but he was the guy that held all of the beliefs and pushed for all the policies that liberals would recognize today as like good policies, whereas and like not outdated policies. And Aaron Burr was cast as someone who doesn't believe in anything, right? Whereas Alexander Hamilton apparently believed in something, but you don't know what he actually believes in. And you don't know what he actually believed in because they couldn't tell you what he actually believed in from watching the play. Because if they did, in any detail, you'd realize his whole like trajectory would have been very ironic, juxtaposed against a whole cast of colored people. It's so... I loved the play. You guys should watch it, especially if you have Disney Plus. No reason not to. The songs were great, super entertaining. But like, I just want to make sure anyone who's watching it or anyone who watched it before or listened to the soundtrack just like does not take this as any representation of history. This is not just like, oh, there's some facts wrong here or there. They took some artistic license. This is like taking the core character and like everything that these characters stands for and like just totally rewriting everything. Like, I don't know why historians aren't having more of a hissy fit with like this stuff. This is like fundamental stuff. It's not like, oh, Hamilton, like Lafayette did not actually meet Hamilton in New York. He would have met Hamilton 2 years later in Pennsylvania. Like, I don't care about that stuff. But I care about what Hamilton stood for. Like, I care about what the Federalist Papers actually say, which they don't go into because the Federalist Papers say some stuff.
Not even Lin-Manuel can make the Federalist Papers interesting, okay?
It would have been interesting to me, okay? I like the Federalist Paper. And full disclosure, if you don't know my political philosophy, I'm Plato. I'm on Plato's side. I believe in an enlightened ruler who governs like a dictator. So Alexander Hamilton is right up my alley. But I just mean it was kind of funny watching all this and knowing that like people think of this as kind of like it's the fact that it's Lin-Manuel doing this and it's an all color cast that makes it seem like it's like super liberal and whatever. But they've just whitewashed one of the most aristocratic anti-American, the way we think of American today, like kind of figure in history. Like there's a reason he never became president. It's not because he had an affair. It's because everybody else looked at him and was like, we don't want this guy to be president. He had no shot of ever becoming president with or without the affair. Like it's just anyway. That's something that I have a lot of problems with, and I just want to make sure all of our it's important enough for me to try to educate our listeners who may be watching Hamilton now that it's widely available instead of just available in Broadway. And the other thing that I have a problem with, and this happens a lot, is the New York centrism of everything, because it is Broadway, right, which is in New York, and then New York is a big cultural center point now, so they like try to make everything take place in New York and make New York seem super important, when New York was a loyalist British outpost. Like, it was the center of British loyalist power. It had no role in the American Revolution. Afterwards, everybody was suspicious as hell of New York. Hamilton, actually, whereas all the other founding fathers refused to defend loyalists in court and like collect on their debts, Hamilton did it. That's why Jefferson has a toss-away line that's like, oh, that makes you such a good I bet you were such a good lawyer for your, like, defendants or whatever. And Hamilton's like, yeah, so I was a good lawyer. It's like, no, it's because no one else would defend the loyalists. And Hamilton was with the moneyed interests. And Britain was rich. You notice even in the play, France was asking for help. He had that whole entire first act, right? The whole first half where he and Lafayette are like buddies, and Lafayette was great. And then later on, Thomas Jefferson's like, hey, we should go help Lafayette. And he's like, no, we're not going to help the French and democracy. Let's help the British because they have so much more money. And they like did that in 2 lines, but they said it. Like they didn't like not say it. They just didn't highlight it. So it's in Hamilton, but I feel like 95% of the people don't connect the dots because they don't connect it for you because it doesn't make Hamilton look good. And Hamilton is supposed to be the hero. And he's at least not in the way that we would think of him as a hero today. This is not what the historical figure is. Anyway, so everything that happens in New York, by the way, doesn't happen in New York just in case people were wondering. Except this is Broadway. So they made everything happen in New York because it's New York, right? And this is not a critique of Lin-Manuel, lest people think I don't. Lin-Manuel was brilliant. He knew all this. He literally like builds in, like if you read for it and like you listen to it, he builds all this into the play. The very first words you hear is King George saying, "This is my story." And King George is the British monarch. So this is a story told from the perspective of a British monarch. This is not Hamilton's story. So it's King George telling a story through Aaron Burr and eventually through Hamilton's wife, Eliza, about Hamilton. That's how the actual story narrative is set up. And then the very last song to end the whole thing, the song's literally called something like Who Tells My Story or something. And it's about how the person that tells your story controls your whole narrative. Like, Lin-Manuel is literally sitting there being like, I am now taking control of Hamilton's narrative, and I am going to make Hamilton be what I want Hamilton to be because I have the power, like the cultural power, not like the other power. But Lin-Manuel, by the way, has always, it's not like, I mean, he got huge in Hamilton, but he was like a Tony nominated, like he was a very well-known dude even before then. So he has the power to control the narrative, and he's like not at all shying away from that. And he's just like, I'm going to make Hamilton be this kind of person because I want him to. and this is my story of Hamilton. Even though it's not like what like Hamilton would roll in his grave watching this, and not just because he's portrayed by like a Puerto Rican guy. Like, he would be rolling in his grave because he would be like, all the things I fought for in my life. What? Anyway, that's my rant on Hamilton. Like, Wikipedia it, Google it. Don't take this in any way, shape, or form as having anything to do with the historical figures. Lin-Manuel's a genius. Hamilton's highly entertaining. Watch it. Just take it as fiction. Like, even though it's, I would say, 90% not fiction, they highlighted all the wrong parts and emphasized all the wrong parts to create a very misleading story. Like, a super misleading story.
Wait, are you telling me Pocahontas didn't have a talking hummingbird and a raccoon?
Yeah, see? But people know that about Pocahontas. I feel like Hamilton's presented as if it is very close to history. And they have like historians on staff and things like that. Like, Hamilton is like a recognized academic work. It wins like Pulitzers. You know? Like, it's not Pocahontas. It's not presented as Pocahontas. If it was Hamilton, Pocahontas, I wouldn't have this rant. I'd be like, I get it. But this is so off. Like, Hamilton was a bad dude by today's standards. You know, or at least a very outdated dude. Aaron Burr was a man of the people. He helped the immigrants. Hamilton at one point locked up a senator, like a sitting senator, who supported France. He just like locked them up with the Alien Sedition Acts and was like, "Oh, you're possibly treasonous to the government." And then the guy was like, "What?" And then he got locked up for 4 months, like just for like not agreeing with Hamilton. Like, Hamilton is very sketchy and he believed in things that are very anti-democratic.
It is true. Right now, Aaron Burr is he's known as like the traitor, right? The backstabbing traitor. Right?
Yeah, I mean, he did shoot Hamilton. Like, when Hamilton shot over his head, or possibly like didn't fire until after. Like, yeah, I'm not taking away from the fact that all indication seems to be that Burr shot Hamilton and he probably shouldn't have. But if you read the story about what happens to Aaron Burr after he kills Hamilton, that's also it's a great story, because Burr's life gets super interesting after he kills Hamilton. And right, well, spoiler alert, Thomas Jefferson like persecutes him for like 6 years. He doesn't get him, but this is like founding fathers drama like crazy.
Well, he was the vice president, so this is like Aaron Burr.
Yeah.
So this is, I mean, this is just some crazy stuff that's happening. It's like just suddenly. I mean, it's not, you know, we're in a different society, but it's like if Mike Pence goes and duels someone, right? It's like it's the freaking vice president here. It's just really weird. Yeah. Anyways.
Okay. One last thing.
Oh my god.
Okay, so Aaron Burr is in this movie. He seems like I mean, he has almost as much lines as Hamilton, actually. Not almost as much, but he has the second most lines. He actually, the guy who plays Aaron Burr actually wins lead actor in the Tonys, not Lin-Manuel for Hamilton, but the Aaron Burr guy. So it's really a story that's almost as much about Burr as Hamilton, supposedly, but they cast it as if Alexander Hamilton's story of like, oh, I have all this ambition, I'm just going to go for everything, I'm going to always take my shot, like, worked. And Aaron Burr is like, I'm going to wait, right? Like, smile more, talk less, smile more, like, didn't work, right? And then Burr got screwed in the end. Burr was vice president. Burr was one electoral vote away from becoming president over Thomas Jefferson. Like, Burr's entire strategy worked beautifully until the very end. Hamilton's strategy barely cobbled anything together, and like he had to like pester people for favors like so often, whereas Burr kind of was actually working the whatever. So if you're taking it as a life lesson, especially, and I keep going, this is my Harry Potter rant too, where like people in their preteens, especially, and Hamilton's a very like PG-13 kind of like thing, right? Like, people in their early teens are like fed this like consistent diet of like heroes that are not at all what they should do in life, and the people that are cast as villains are usually what they should do in life. Like, these are the successful people that like actually get stuff done and like make things happen. And instead, you're presented with these heroes like Harry Potter, who is just he makes terrible decisions. Hamilton, who makes terrible decisions. And I mean, I get it. Hamilton's presented as a great character who does make terrible decisions sometimes. But you're like, overall, Hamilton was pretty good. No, Hamilton made super terrible decisions. He had the talent and the ambition to become president, and he threw it all away through various terrible decisions, of which half of which was highlighted as a virtue in this film. Just, if you have children, that you think is appropriate age to show Hamilton to, make sure they also know what actually happens to Hamilton and to Burr. All right, don't be Alexander Hamilton, guys. Not a cool guy.
Thank you for that 20-minute rant. It was very necessary.
It's totally. Watching that, I just kept screaming at Brand New. It was like just like how off this whole thing is. All right, okay, that's my 4th of July Adwicta special on Alexander Hamilton and why
America.
It's all wrong.
Yeah, well,
Smellyhead in Twitch chat says, "Remind me not to watch TV with Adwicta." That's a good idea. I don't think it's fun to watch TV or movies with me. I would not enjoy it.
It's really not. The only movies that you can watch with Adwicta are rom-coms.
Oh,
we
those
watch
are so
a lot
good.
of rom-coms together. And for those, he will suspend belief because they're not supposed to be believable, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Is it believable that they serendipitously meet up at 5 locations in the span of a week? Probably not. Is it believable that airport security will just let him run through? Probably not, even back in the 90s. But Adwicta is willing to suspend belief for those. So that's a tip if you guys ever find yourself in the awkward situation of choosing a movie to watch with Adwicta.
Rom-coms are so good. I miss I've been upset ever since the like late 90s ended that they stopped making rom-coms like that. Like, Love Actually killed rom-coms. They just couldn't top it, and they just like tried, and it just got worse and worse. And now you have a good rom-com every like 2 years, whereas you used to have like 4 every year.
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
All
Happy
right.
4th of July.
Happy
people.
4th of July, guys. Until next week, this is Adwicta.
This is Merps. Goodbye.